Welcome to Chasing Rings Overtime. These fast break episodes are an extension of the main show, delivering quick-hitting takes, bold opinions, and analysis on the biggest stories and topics across sports. While we remain rooted in football year-round, Overtime expands our lens to cover everything happening across the sports world. We will return for a second season of full-length episodes in July as we ramp up for complete NCAA football and NFL coverage in preparation for the 2026 seasons. Until then, let's go. This is Chasing Rings Overtime. Welcome to another episode of Chasing Rings Overtime. What's up, big dude?
Hey, how's everybody doing? How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. Classic game last night we were just talking about, and we'll start there. The Western Conference Finals jumped off last night, and Wemby had a game for the ages as San Antonio beat OKC on the road in game one to take a 1-0 lead in the Western Conference Finals. But, man, what a game, man. What a performance. What a game.
It's just outstanding. Punch for punch, blow for blow. It almost seemed like it was a heavyweight champion, but it was in boxing and UFC or boxing and MMA.
Right.
It seemed like that they were switching both of those sports because they were coming at each other. And probably, I'm going to say in the last 10 years, the most physical basketball game I've ever seen.
It was legit NBA basketball last night. And, we've talked about this on our regular show that, we had kind of lost interest in the NBA on a day-to-day basis. But I tell you what, the way this series started, definitely my interest and curiosity is piqued. And I already was interested in the Eastern Finals, which we'll discuss next. But man, what a way to start the finals, man. The conference finals. Just amazing. What were your biggest takeaways from that game? I mean, the Thunder dominated the Lakers in the last series, and I was starting to wonder if the Thunder were going to be the first team to go undefeated throughout the playoffs. But, the Spurs handled Minnesota pretty well. Obviously we see the Spurs have jumped out ahead in this series, but who do you think actually has the edge in this Western Conference Finals?
Well, I mean, San Antonio, as good as they played, they made every mistake that you could. I mean, they had several turnovers. You have one guy with 11 turnovers. Anytime you get one dude, he's got 17 points, 11 boards, and 11 assists, and 11 turnovers. I mean, that Stephon Castle. And then you had a number of people, making other errors, but they just kept on coming. And usually when you make a lot of turnovers, I think what I read was 21 turnovers, unless I missed it by one or two.
Sounds about right.
And they converted 28 points off of those 21 turnovers. Usually that spells defeat for a team. I think why OKC is in trouble, because OKC tried to do everything else down the stretch. And actually, I think the Spurs, obviously made some adjustments to hold down Gilgeous-Alexander for that first half. I mean, anytime you hold him to 4 points in the first half, you're not doing something right. You're doing a whole lot right. And then, of course, Wemby, man, he just took over the game with great confidence, great skill, and played with great discipline. A lot of people usually foul out in that type of situation. He took advantage of every situation he could have taken advantage of. And gosh, just came up clutch when he needed to come up clutch too, like he knew what he was doing. And the man's 22 years old, and the team got on his back. That doesn't happen often to a person that doesn't have much playoff experience like Wemby. Because I thought this would be the end for the Spurs for sure. I said, well, Wemby doesn't have Wemby has taken the wheel, and I think OKC better win this one. They better win the next one on Wednesday, or I don't think that it looks good for them.
Yeah, I think that going into this, I would have selected the Spurs as the favorite to win this, just based off the regular season matchups. San Antonio dominated in the regular season. I think it was either 3 3-1 or 4-1. I forget how many games they played. And for the most part, those games weren't extremely close. So I figured that San Antonio would have a lot of confidence coming into this matchup. But in looking at that game, it actually could have been way easier than it was. It never really should have went to double overtime. If you look at the entirety of the game, San Antonio pretty much had a comfortable lead throughout the game. OKC would get to within 3 with 5. San Antonio would take it back to 9, 10, and before they finally caught them. But you touched on a really big key point about this first game and something that San Antonio is going to have to clean up. Stephon Castle had way too many turnovers, and there were way too many situations with their guards dribbling into traffic ill-advisedly and turning the ball over. And that kind of kept OKC in the game. Now, we do realize that De'Aaron Fox was out for game 1. I'm assuming he'll be back for 2. I know it's his ankle. I don't think it's anything serious. I haven't seen his prognosis for game 2 yet, but I'm assuming he will be back at some point in this series. And that should settle that down a little bit because the Spurs have a really young backcourt. But let me tell you something. My man Harper.
Oh, wow.
My man Harper, amazing performance. And really he may become the Robin to Wemby's Batman. I thought it might have been Stephon Castle, which it still may be. He had a good scoring game, of course, but those turnovers, he basically voided out the 11 assists he had, but those 11 turnovers, like you said. And for me watching the game, it was super frustrating for them to have like a 7-8 point lead, and then the guards would come down and do something so careless, and the lead would go to 3, would reduce to 3 that quick because of 2 dumb turnovers. So if they can clean that up, it looks like they are the better team. I mean, if you're watching that game, we watched the young team grow up right in front of our eyes. And if you didn't know any better, you might have thought that San Antonio was the veteran team, the way they played down the stretch. I think one of the big disadvantages for OKC is Jalen Williams has been hurt most of the year, and you can see he was really gassed at the end. He had a good game nonetheless. He's looked good, but he's not in playing shape. He missed most of the year, so we'll see how his fatigue is impacted as this series goes on. Certainly, the deeper this series gets, and if they keep playing these types of games, that's going to impact his durability. But classic game 1. Don't know what else you could really say about that. Really looking forward to this series. I'm going to be interested to see how OKC bounces back. I'm really going to be interested in that because San Antonio is going to have that swagger now. They believe, and they were undermanned, like I said, with De'Aaron Fox out. And you figure if he can come back and bring even more stability to that offense, that'll be a problem. Not to mention the fact that we can't gloss over the fact that Wemby was probably a little irritated. I did not know that OKC did the MVP presentation before the game. Probably not the smartest thing to do. No, not the smartest thing to anger the big man.
Yeah, and he handled the answer to that question. I don't know if you saw that he actually got that question and he kind of glossed over it.
I'm not mad at him at all. You saw the clip where he was sitting on the bench. They showed him while they were announcing it. And you could just see that he was like, okay, this is what we're doing. Okay. So yeah, man, we haven't seen anything like this kid. And I'm trying to think, who does he remind me of? Jeez. And I'm curious as to who you're thinking of. You know who comes to mind for me? Ralph Sampson.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of our audience might not remember Big Ralph, from the early 80s with the Houston Rockets. He was the second piece of the Twin Towers in Houston with Hakeem Olajuwon. But correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there was anything that Ralph couldn't do. He could shoot from the outside. He could bring the ball up. He could post. He could be aggressive. Similar build to Wemby, thinner guys, but you could tell that they were still strong, even though their frames were not necessarily filled out. So that's kind of who he reminded me of in terms of his game and a little bit of his attitude, because Big Ralph could be mean when he needed to. Who does he remind you of?
Well, I think Ralph, and actually the way he is, being a Sixers fan, he was what I thought Sean Bradley would hope to be.
Oh, oh,
that's what. Hey, and I know that didn't work out that way, but that's what I'm thinking. That this guy is going to do everything. But and also basketball was so much more different. Even though Kareem and all those guys could dribble, they really did not have them bringing the ball up. I mean, it was Magic and Jamal Wilkes and all the rest of them, and Nixon and all of them bringing it up. So I think in this particular situation, it would be Ralph would be the closest. I would say probably his mid-range game, but reminds me of Schmitz just a little bit.
I like that. I like that. Yeah,
a little bit of Rick Schmitz on his mid-range games. But the way he just took over, it was a combination of Wilt and all the rest of those guys, and Spencer Haywood. And Spencer Haywood, imagine if he was 7. I just watched him on an interview on something, and it was just he knew him coming out not being able to play. It was almost like he was playing like he got cheated out of something. And once he slammed on Holmgren, I said something to him. I knew Holmgren was out of the game, and he was not very nice to Holmgren, And I'm not gonna lie, it took me back to the '80s basketball that I know and love. That it's fun and it wasn't personal, but I'm going to take you. And then it's great of a game that Caruso had last night. God bless him. And Caruso had a great game, except he made probably about 4 mistakes. You know what they were? Trying to guard Wembanyama on the post. I don't know what he was thinking. But but I liked he's the one that, to me, he's the one that kept him off the game. And it just didn't occur to me that he's an off-the-bench player. A lot of times I forget. He comes off the bench, but he will body anybody up at any cost. And he was getting dunked on and coming right back at him. That was the thing. It was like and I know that people could get in trouble, especially me, but just kind of like an old school real man type of thing. They used to say back in the day, don't get in a fight with a grown man. That's kind of what that was last night. There were grown men in a fight that nobody could get in the middle of.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. First, Caruso, man, watching him play last night, I miss him in L.A. Man, I miss him in L.A. because he's a little dog. Yeah, he was on the championship team with LeBron when they won during the COVID.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, but yeah, so one of the problems I had with that game and really have with the NBA in general is where these big guys especially are playing. So, yeah, that was really weird that OKC kept putting guards on Wemby. But I also was a little bit annoyed that he was playing so far from the basket. And I think that's when they got into a little bit of a funk offensively and allowed OKC to kind of get back in the game and stay in the game when he came further out from the basket. Now, certainly we know he can play out there. I mean, that 3 that he hit, man, that was probably the biggest shot of their season. But when he went back down low, that's kind of when he took over in the overtimes. When he got back to his game, he had the nasty dunk. He had the nice putback. What's your take on these guys? It's a mismatch advantage that teams just aren't taking advantage of when they have these big guys. And I don't know why these coaches aren't insisting that these guys go down low. You see it with Embiid. You see it with Joker. We see it with Wemby. And again, I know that these big guys are a different type of athlete. They're a different beast. But when it's winning time, get your butt back in the paint and let's go.
Yeah, because that's what sets everything else up. I would say is the greater the stats. If we look at Wembanyama, 41, 24, 3, and whatever else he had, when you start in 48 minutes, it was his presence more than anything else that had an effect of that game. He was playing like a mean Ralph Sampson with probably more athleticism, because he was brought up probably differently than Ralph Sampson. Ralph Sampson grew to be that. He wasn't always that tall. Then he sprung up there. So he had the skills. Wembanyama, that's what he was doing. My thing is open the game up. I'm an old school coach in some ways, where I say open it up inside to outside. Yep. But it's nice to have that jumper in that mid-range, especially the mid-range when you can. But what puts him over the top is him just pulling up from 29 feet, just very assuredly.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
and even Caruso was like, "Oh my God, did you see his lips? Oh my God, I can't believe this."
Did you see their bench? Did you see the bench, their expression when he hit that?
Yeah. And and the fact that I like those guys on the outside, like with Embiid, he'll have more of an effect on the game. And these other people that he needs to hit threes, you got to get them in there. That's what started happening with Holmgren. I mean, Holmgren, he's a great corner shooter, but guess what? Holmgren should have, even if he puts it back on your face 5 times, it's a different game if you're going to make Wembanyama work. Because I'm going to be honest with you, they didn't make him work on defense. If you're going to block my shot, you keep on blocking it, and I'm going to take some rubber off your tire. I'm going to keep coming at you. And you know what? My shoulder is going to go into your sternum, and you're going to go, oh. Yeah. So I think that they let Wembanyama, even though Wembanyama had one of the best historical games ever in the conference final, I think they let him off the hook with their physicality, and that's what it's got to be. Maybe you can't do all what the old Detroiters did. Coming across the lane, I'm going to take a foul with a shoulder in the sternum.
Well, and try to get him in foul trouble. Like you said, make him play defense. You're going to get a couple cheap ones. Post Chet up, at least get a couple fouls down there, man. I mean, because he's going to get 1 or 2 offensive fouls, get a foul on a rebound or something like that. But if you can get him to get 2 fouls at least on defense, that could change the complexion of the game. But also going back to the offensive end, if you watch the ebbs and flows of that game, when Wemby was posting higher up or even literally being outside, it reduced the distance that he had to give it to open shooters for 3-point shots. Like basically there were no open shooters because now I can kind of cheat down and almost double on Wemby because he was so high, but still stick with my guys. So if you watch that game and think about how it flowed, San Antonio did not have the same number of open threes that they had when Wemby was outside as much as he was. When he went back down, guys were open, they weren't hitting the shots like they were earlier, but you're at least getting those open shots. But we'll see what coaching changes OKC makes in this second game, because this is a big game for them. They can't afford to go down 2-0 to this team.
No, they can't.
They can afford to do that.
And just looking at the free throws, I think you were just mentioning something, Guru, I think, which made a whole lot of sense about, and they finally got going when they started looking at it. And you started to hear them talk on the press conference about angles and going to the lane. It took too long to get that going. You got to get that party started right away. San Antonio shot 10 more free throws than they shot last night. That's the difference. 11 more free throws made for San Antonio than the Thunder. That's a big difference. That means that they were aggressive going to the basket and you weren't. And most of the referees that I've learned that do this partially for a living anyway said, you know what? If none of your team, and I used to complain about some of their calls, they said, look, if your team doesn't drive to the hole, I ain't paying them no mind.
Yep. Initiate some contact, man. Make it a little bit more physical. Can't be crying. You're not going to get those fouls shooting on the outside all day. You're not going to the free throw line.
So what, he throws it back in your face, but sooner or later, you got to be the smarter one. And that's what I have to say. What I really respected about SGA, the way he handled the press conference, he made and offered no excuses. Said, we just got to be smarter. And I think that's the key in this, that they have to be smarter. They got their guy back that's, they got 26 points, Williams. All that's great, but just having the awareness there. My thing is, you can't ever let the guy know that he's inside your head. And that's what they did last night. Wembanyama, he did right, did what he had to do, intimidated him early, and they always thought about how they were going to come to the basket. Well, you're just going to have to block it. Get 10 blocks tonight. I don't care, but if you foul out, that's what I'm saying. He didn't foul out last night. They did not challenge him to do that.
And they schemed up some great plays. They schemed up some great plays at the end of the games there where they kept Wemby out of the paint to let SGA get in and get some easy buckets. So I don't know why they didn't do that more during the game. So we'll see what happens in game 2, see if they change their strategy. But I think one thing will be very important. It'll probably be important for OKC to kind of get a nice start and to be the one playing from ahead. If they continuously play from behind against this team, they're going to suffer the same fate that Minnesota did, because some of those victories in that series, those games weren't close. As we saw, the closeout game wasn't close at all. So we will see, but I'm excited, man. I can't wait. You know, it's been a while since I've been excited to watch some NBA playoff action. So I'm here for it this season. Jumping into the Eastern Conference Finals. Let's talk first about that closeout game. Again, another disappointment. Like I just talked about my excitement in watching these games, and then being disappointed in the egg that Detroit laid at home in game 7. You know, if they would have lost, fine, but the way they lost was a little bothersome to me.
Yeah.
You know, you can't get blown out at home in game 7, and they didn't present a challenge pretty much from the first quarter on. They never really presented a challenge to Cleveland, but now we have the matchup of Cleveland and New York. What do you think about going into that series? Do you think the Cavs can get the Knicks out of there? You know, the Knicks have not played in a few days now. Might they get caught in this game 1 tonight?
Well, I mean, I think it depends on the team. I think with the Knicks and them trying to get as much Anunoby back as much as possible, I think from that perspective, the rest was good, because they do need him, and I still say that he's the X factor. So I will say that, you know, the rest, I'm sure it did them some good. I'm sure that Cleveland, having that hard series, they learned some hard lessons and learned to survive. I think that it's possible, again, that Cleveland can get it. I think Cleveland needs a performance is similar to what San Antonio did, you know, last night, you know, staying ahead, you know, and especially with James Harden. This is the career game for James Harden. He's asked for it. He's there. I think a lot is going to depend on James Harden and how much they make James Harden work on the defensive end. Because we know James Harden has the offensive end down, and he's got mid-range and he can drive to the hole. The question is, what is he going to be able to do with Brunson? To me, that's a key matchup if they do have him on Brunson, or unless they're going to put Hart, you know, on you know, hit him on, put him on Hart. So we'll see. Like I said, and I think that'll be the key for New York also. You know, Hart did a lot of talking after the Sixers victory, and after that, that's good. But now, you know, Cleveland, I think what they didn't offer, the Sixers didn't play with, is physicality. I think the physicality from Cleveland is what's going to keep them in the game, you know, the physicality and all. I still say New York's bench is a little bit deeper going in. The rest is good, but they shouldn't fall behind from Cleveland, because we have not seen the Knicks really play from behind yet. So I think that Cleveland has a chance to beat a team that goes up on them by 10 points or so. They shouldn't let that happen often. I think Cleveland has a chance. I think this is a good series.
Yeah, in our last episode, I had said that I thought the Knicks would sweep Cleveland. I'm going to rescind that. I think the Cavs can win this series. I think the Cavs can win this series. They're going to have to get off the great starts. They are going to have to figure out a way to get some points off their bench and some key minutes off their bench, because they are not going to be able to compete with the Knicks bench for sure. So they're going to have to stay close and, you know, play as solidly as they can against the Knicks second team for the most part. But, you know, this is one of those series where I think you're not going to be able to tell until you see them out there. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're looking at it on paper, I'm thinking, yeah, the Cavs should be able to hang with the Knicks now. But then when you see the Knicks, you're like, whoa, they look a little bit differently than I thought they did. And I think for me, maybe I'm just not giving the Knicks the respect yet. They still have to show me. I think they still have to show me, because sometimes they play so frenzied and that works when you're up. But when, as we saw against Indiana last year, when those games got tight in the Eastern Conference Finals against a team that wasn't scared and a team that had some scores. Now, Cleveland's got more scores than Indiana had. We're going to see what happens if these games are close late and, you know, you can go Harden or Spider-Man. Now, I hate watching James Harden play basketball. I might be one of the few people. It's just terrible basketball to me. I hate it. but I mean, he scores. He's a scorer. And I appreciate that, but his game is just so ugly to me.
Right.
And it would be frustrating to play against him. We had a kid on my block that kind of played like that. And you're talking about back in the day. So way pre James Harden. And I hated playing defense against him because he dribbled around in and out, then take some crazy shot and knock it down a lot of times. So he's frustrating to play against, and I just don't like watching it. But we'll see what happens. But I'm a Donovan Mitchell guy. I like him a lot. So we'll see if he can get over the hump. I wouldn't be mad if the Knicks won it. Like, I don't have a pony in this race here.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely want San Antonio to win that series. There's something about OKC that I don't know that rubs me the wrong way, but Cleveland Knicks, I'm fine with whoever. I probably should be rooting for the Knicks, but we shall see. Game 1 tonight, so we'll see how that game goes. As we wrap up this particular episode, we've talked about the postseason and these young teams arriving earlier than expected, when we've touched on the NBA throughout the year. Big dude, are we entering this new NBA era where the young guns are starting to push the old heads aside? We're talking about the OKCs, the San Antonios, Clevelands, Detroits, even the Knicks with these young rosters. Are they next? Are we starting to see the old guard out as, obviously LeBron is in his last few years if he continues on? Are we looking at the new guard in the NBA right now, you think?
I think that's what we have so far. It seems to be that they're able to assemble the teams better in a lot of these small market places, So the Bostons and the Philadelphias and the Knicks are, of course, still there. And the Lakers, they're going through a transformation. You can kind of see what transformation they're going through. But these teams that you mentioned, I think that they're better at building teams than having everything quick and instant. Sometimes, of course, Dallas will make the trade that they've had to make, and they've done that. But I think that especially OKC and San Antonio, after Pop left for San Antonio, it was like they just handed the baton off to the next group of people in a very smooth way, So, and OKC, it's hard to tell where they came from. It was like they've always been pretty solid, but just OKC has made a couple of key trades, but they've set up how the next group of people are going to go, and they took a chance and they'll get a trade, like they, the Sixers trade McCain, which I thought was crazy, but they've been able to be, really on top of some of these advantageous situations where you're bringing in players, and even somebody like that, even though he played like maybe 9 minutes, you never know. All those folks, they have a lot more capable of people. I think in a lot of those franchises that you mentioned, that's why they're the new guard, because they're deeper and they can make a smooth transition from one group of people to the next. So they are the new guard.
Yeah, really well-run organizations. I mean, who would have thought that Cleveland would be relevant again after, LeBron, Kyrie, Kevin Love, that whole crew exited? Who would have thought Detroit would have been relevant again? And definitely OKC when you basically lose your big three, Durant, Westbrook, and Harden all leaving. You never really thought these teams would get back to where they are. And I mean, Oklahoma City has surpassed what those three were able to do by bringing a title to Oklahoma City. So it's been very interesting to watch these NBA teams build. And I guess the only thing that's comparable, in my opinion, watching this new era evolve is maybe baseball, where you can kind of go from last to first, kind of overnight. And even if you look at some of the teams now, like the White Sox were the laughingstock last year, and now, they're in early contention. So the NBA, those organizations have done a really good job. And I think that what has been surprising to us as fans is, you have younger and younger players entering the league now. And a lot of us were like, well, you're having these guys that haven't played a lot of ball and you're kind of putting your franchise in their hands. But these guys, this is a different type of athlete today, man. And as much as we might want to say, well, how it was back in our days and we want to see how great these guys are different athletes, man.
Sure.
I mean, if you take this Dylan Harper kid, rookies don't, it would be rare that during our era a rookie came in and was that impactful. We've seen a few, over time, but it seems to be more often now where these guys are immediately coming in and impacting teams.
2 from Rutgers. When did we ever hear that?
Exactly. So the NBA, good times for the NBA ahead for sure. No doubt about that. So, if you haven't been watching the playoffs, this is a great time to join in. I think we're about to see some exciting basketball ahead. But that will do it for this episode of Chasing Rings Overtime. Continue to follow us, like, subscribe on all the major streaming platforms. And until next time, see ya later.